Hi, it's Tricia at Club Scrap and welcome to the Sea Glass Page Kit Workshop. Now this is actually a remix of a remix. We originally released this collection style with the name Sea Breeze, and it was incredibly popular, sold out right away. And we released it again as the Sea Breeze Remix. So to avoid confusion, we have changed the name to Sea Glass so that you're sure to always match up the instructions with the name of the kit so you're following along with the right stuff. Okay, so confirm you've got Sea Glass, and let's go ahead and get started on making our pages. I have my instructions printed out here and I've got my kit handy. As usual, we'll begin with just the papers. So I will set aside all of those wonderful embellishments. And you'll also want to have your guillotine style trimmer as well as an accordion pocket file. If you don't know what this is, it's just as an organizer with 4 pockets that helps us stay organized, because we'll do all of this in phases. We'll trim the paper first and then we'll have everything we need to make 8 12 by 12 pages. So if you don't have this, don't let it stop you from taking the workshop. I always say that you'll want one eventually, but for now, just maintain 4 separate piles for layouts 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Okay, this little lip on the accordion pocket file sits under my trimmer base. And again, if you don't have a guillotine style trimmer for this, you'll probably just need to really slow me down. You can do that by adjusting your playback speed in your YouTube settings. But this style of trimmer is definitely conducive to being successful with my method. Okay, so the first step in my method is to take the paper that we have in the kit and organize it in the order we'll be trimming it. That saves us a lot of time on the back end. And the first piece we're going to work with is this ombre style starfish print. I'm going to take just one sheet of that and put it face down on my trimmer base, as we'll do with all of the prints. Okay, next up, I'm going to grab one sheet of that bottle print, flip that over to the plain side as well. Moving on, I want you to find 2 sheets of dark aqua. So 1, 2. Now, here's your contrast. This is the dark aqua. You got 1 sheet of the light aqua, okay? So make sure you're grabbing 2 of the dark aqua. Next up, 1 sheet of the yellow, 1 orange, 1 light aqua, and you don't have to worry about front or back because it's solid cardstock, okay? Next up, the soft white. Now on the soft white, you're gonna notice that it has I would call this a felt finish texture. One side is a little more smooth, the other has a little bit more texture. It's very subtle, but I'll put it texture side down just so that when we flip things over, we'll be, operating on the right side. Next up, from the back of your stack of papers, I'm gonna find the Cutaparts sheet that has all of the 12-inch strips of artwork. Flip that to the plain side, and then this other one that has journaling prompts on it. We'll flip that. Then find 1 sheet of yellow, plain again. That's on the back for me. And then the remaining starfish print. That's this guy. Flip him over. The remaining 2 sheets of orange. I love this paper because it has this cloudy sort of a pressed finish on it. It's one of my favorites. Then 2 sheets of the soft white. Again, you can study the texture. I can see clearly on my end that this has more texture, so I'll place both of those texture side down. And you're down to 2 sheets left here. Now we got your dark aqua remaining, and then your bottle print plain side down. Plain side up, rather. Okay, I'm gonna flip that all over. So I'm back at the starfish print. I'll set my papers to my left. This is how I like to set up my workspace. And if you're working with a printed copy of the instructions, I keep that on my right, or you might have a iPad or some sort of a device you're using. I've even seen people do my classes from their phone and have the instructions on their phone or something like that. So, whatever, you do you. Now I'm gonna take that first sheet of the starfish print and let's place it in the trimmer so that the yellow side is on your right and the blue is on your left. Lift that blade all the way up. Be sure you're looking when we measure, because we will be measuring. Make sure you're looking at the inches, not the centimeters. Centimeters are on the top row, inches are the second row. I'm finding the hole number 7. Ensure that the paper is flush at the top here. Press down firmly on this clear bar to stabilize the paper and slice. That's all there is to it for that one. Both of these pieces can be stacked neatly together, and you can place them in pocket 3 and 4 and do so at an angle so that it's kind of shoving out of the pocket to the right, and you can still see the numbers 3 and 4 on the left side of the pocket. Next, I'll take the bottle print. We've got some funky twists and turns to make here because I did some fun things with this. So just bear with me. I'm gonna have you place the bottle print into the trimmer. So the bottle is in the upper left corner and you got this shell here on the right. And our first cut will be at 8.5 inches. So find the hole number 8, go left 2 columns. Every column is 1/4 of an inch on here. So 8.5, stabilize and slice. Now I want you to rotate this print so that the bottle is on the right. And we'll cut at 7 3/4. So that's gonna be from the 7, you go left 3 columns. 1, 2, 3, and slice. That gives me this lovely print here that's gonna be used in pocket 1 and 2, or layout 1 and 2. And now you have the bottle. I'm gonna place it into the trimmer with the bottle on my left and cut at 6. And that's gonna take that, isolate the bottle, and then you got the piece that fell from the end. This goes in pocket 3 and 4. And then I'll grab some scissors that I use for paper. I have one that I use exclusively for fabric and one I use for paper. And I'm just gonna trim out the bottle. You could leave it whole if you wanted to, but I kind of have it in a fun spot. So if you want to look ahead, you can look at layouts 5 and 6 to see how the bottle was used. And it's not too difficult to trim this out. It's pretty easy line here, and it doesn't have to be perfect. No one's gonna know. Just trim him out. It only takes a second or two. You'll notice it has a bottom edge. That's fine. We're gonna keep this on the bottom of our page, and again, that goes in pocket 5 and 6. I'll plop that in there, and then I didn't use this section. Hope you're okay with that. I'll just dispose of it. And now we've got this remaining strip here with the shell that goes in pocket 5 and 6. Ta-da! Now we're moving on to the dark aqua. Now when we're gonna trim 2 of these, but one at a time. So as you grab a dark aqua, make sure there's another one next to it. Don't trim both. It's happened in class. We don't want that to happen to you. We'll start out at 8 1/4 here. So find 8, go left 1 column, that's 8 1/4, and then 4 1/4. So 4 plus 1 left is 4 1/4. Rotate that 4 1/4 so it's horizontal, and trim at 6 3/4. So 6 plus 1, 2, 3 columns left. That's 6 3/4. The larger piece you just made here, pocket 5 and 6. And then the chubbier, shorter one in pocket 1 and 2, and grab the next strip that fell to your right. So the assumption is you're not moving the paper as you trim, and I know it's always a temptation for people to move the paper once it's been trimmed. Leave it pile up, and that way we can tackle it together. So I'm gonna rotate this piece. It's 4 by 12 right now. Nice easy cuts here. We'll go at 9, 6, 3, and then take that 3-inch piece that's right in your trimmer right now, rotate it so it's horizontal, and trim at 3 1/2. Place this smaller piece then in pocket 5 and 6. You had a small piece fall from the end. That's gonna be a scrap. I'm sorry. And then you have another rectangle, place it in 5 and 6. The next rectangle in pocket 3 and 4. And the very last piece in 7 and 8. This longer, wider piece here, the whole thing, pocket 1 and 2, and remember, file at an angle so that you can still see your pocket number. Now we have the next sheet of the dark aqua. We'll trim this one at 6 1/4. So 6 plus 1 column to the left, 6 1/4, and then you'll rotate and trim at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. You've made 2 rectangles. They're the same, or they should be. They're gonna go in pocket 1 and 2. And you have a narrow rectangle that fell from the bottom. Let's trim that at 3. And then I want you to rotate and then trim at 2 1/2. This smaller rectangle goes in pocket 5 and 6. You have a small piece that fell from the end, believe it or not, 7 and 8. And then this other rectangle, 5 and 6. We'll take the 5 3/4 by 12-inch strip that still is to our right, place it in horizontally, and start at 11 1/4, 7.5, 3 3/4. Now you made a series of 3 pieces that should all be the same. Those are going to go in pocket 3 and 4. And you have this strip that fell from the end, pocket 7 and 8. All right, turning to our next page here. In my instructions, I'm on top of page 2, step 5. It calls for yellow. And we're going to start out with a pretty large number, giving us a pretty small piece when we trim at it. So let's look at 11 1/4. And then 10 1/2. So 10 plus 2 columns left. And then 6 1/4. 6 1/4. Rotate that 6 1/4 by 12. We'll trim at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. Again, giving us 2 pieces the same. These are photo mat size. They're 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and our photos are 4 by 6. So that's why we do it. We'll put those in pocket 7 and 8. And then you can take the remaining rectangle and trim at 6 and 3. Get 2 rectangles here. We'll place those in pocket 3 and 4. And I regret to inform you that you've got a little scrap here. This remaining long strip, wider strip, is trimmed at 6 1/4. That gives us another photo mat that's larger and then a piece that's shorter. Both of these go in pocket 3 and 4. And then you have these narrow strips. Put one of them in pocket 3 and 4 again, and the other in 7 and 8. Moving on to the orange. We're making quick work of this. Let's trim at 9 3/4. So 9, 1, 2, 3. And 6 1/4. Again, that's a very famous number here. 6 1/4. Rotate, and we'll trim at 8 1/2 again. And 4 1/4 again. Thus giving us 2 more handy photo mats to fit our 4 by 6 photos. Those go in pocket 1 and 2. And then you have the rectangle. This time we're going to cut it at 6 and 3. Giving us 2 rectangles that are the same. And placing those in pocket 7 and 8. A small scrap fell from the end. It matches the one that we made with the yellow, see? 2 matching scraps so far. Now we have this long strip. We're going to make a tiny little cut at a really big number. So trim at 11 3/4. And that goes in pocket 1 and 2. You made yet another orange matching scrap. And then this last orange strip also goes in pocket 1 and 2. Moving on to the light aqua. Grab that. And let's begin at 10 3/4. So 10, 1, 2, 3. Then 9 1/4. Once again, 6 1/4. Rotate. So that 6 1/4 is horizontal. You should be used to this by now. 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. You made 2 pieces the same size again, and they both go in pocket 5 and 6. Moving on to our little narrow strip here, we will trim at 6 and 3. That's also a repeat of what we've been doing for the last 3 sheets. Both of these go in pocket 1 and 2, and once again, we've made the tiny little scrap. Let's take the next strip. This is 3 by 12, and we'll trim at 11 1/4. 7 1/2 and 3 3/4. This rectangle, pocket 1 and 2. The next 2 that are also the same size, pocket 5 and 6. And this little piece that fell from the end, pocket 1 and 2, believe it or not. Let's take these remaining 2 strips. They should be different in size. They both go in 5 and 6. Now we have the soft white. Love this beautiful paper. Our first trim here is at 8 3/4. And then 5 1/4. Rotate that 5 1/4 by 12. We'll trim at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Gathering your 3 mats that are the same. They all go in pocket 7 and 8. And then you have this strip that fell from the end for pocket 3 and 4. Yes, I'm using all of those little pieces. All right, now this next one, this is 3 1/2 by 12. We will start at 9 3/4, 6 1/2, 3 1/4. You've made 3 pieces that should be the same. They're all gonna go in pocket 5 and 6. And there's one left, it's smaller. That goes in 3 and 4. Pick up the next strip. This is 3 1/4 by 12. We'll trim at 9 1/4, 6 1/2, 3 1/2. This square, I guess it's not quite square, and this other piece that just fell, it's 3 by 3 1/4. They both go in pocket 5 and 6, and you have 2 other pieces that are the same, that are smaller. Those go in 3 and 4. And now we've arrived at our Cutaparts. And if you've done our Cutaparts before, just go ahead and do the thing you know you need to do, okay? If you're new, tune in. You're gonna need to eliminate any paper that extends beyond the edge of those hash marks on your sheet. So I'll just line that up. And when I do so, I'm gonna do it shy of the mark, okay? I'm gonna go back and clean that up a little later. Now I'm gonna rotate the paper and do the same thing. I need to turn this into a 12 by 12 because it started out as a 12 1/4 by 12 1/4. The reason we do this little procedure is because on those gigantic commercial paper trimmers, it's hard to nail that perfectly. And if it's not perfect, it creates what I would call like a butterfly effect of error going through the entire sheet. So this way, I have now created my perfect 12 by 12, cut exactly where it needs to be trimmed. So when we go and trim it, everything lands properly. And if you ever get the cut wrong, you'll know what I mean. Otherwise, just trust me. Okay, so now I have a perfect 12 by 12. I've trimmed about 1/8 of an inch from each edge. And it's about 1/8 of an inch. What you really need to do is just watch where those marks land and line them up with the edge of your trimmer blade. Another thing I like about this trimmer is that I can see that blade quite well. Now, I'm gonna place this back in my trimmer so that the sea glass strip is on the right. And let's cut at 10 3/4, 10 1/4, 9 3/4, 8 1/4, 7 1/4, tons of border strips here, 5 1/4, and 3 1/4. This piece right here goes in pocket 7 and 8. And then we have this strip here with the bottle, pocket 1 and 2. This strip with the starfish, pocket 7 and 8. The title, I Have Enough Sea Glass, Said No One Ever, 5 and 6. The yellow strip, 3 and 4. The polka dot strip with the blue dots is 3 and 4. And then the orange strip with dots, 7 and 8. And then this other sea glass, 5 and 6. One last sheet of Cutaparts. Let's give her the treatment. So we'll remove the paper past the crosshairs and generously on my first cut. And again, that's merely because the paper size is so big that I can't line up the mark at the bottom with the blade because I can't see it because the paper is too large. So I make that cut, first cut, just generously so I can tune it up on my last rotation of the paper. So now here I can look at the number 12. This is my third rotation. And then my final cut, I can also look at my 12. And when I look at the mark, it's perfectly aligned, okay? And I'll just get rid of all those little scrappies. And when we begin trimming this, make sure that The answer may not be at the beach, but shouldn't we at least try? That should be on our right because it's the smallest strip and we want to trim at 10.5. Then 7 3/4 and 4. Now let's rotate this 4-inch piece so that the bottle one is on the left and the lantern's on the right. And I'll cut at 6.5. 6.5. This larger piece, pocket 5 and 6, and the smaller one, pocket 3 and 4. We got a lot in pocket 5 and 6 here. All right, now we have our next strip, a bunch of journaling prompts and some other artwork with the shell grouping on the right. Our first cut will be at 9 1/4, then 6.5, and 3 3/4. This piece and the next journaling prompt, 3 and 4. The vertical journaling prompt, 7 and 8. And the shell grouping, 5 and 6. Oh, we're so close. All right, girls just want to have sun on the right, 9 3/4, 6.5, and 3 1/4. This piece with the shell, 5 and 6. The starfish and the quote, seashells and salty waves, both in 1 and 2. Girls just want to have sun, 5 and 6. Now this needs one more trim here at 9 1/4. This long piece goes in 7 and 8, and piece 3 and 4. That was your last cut. Congratulations. That means now we're ready to do what I call the dry fit assembly phase. We're not going to be using adhesive here. We'll simply be taking what's in each pocket and spreading it onto the base papers so that we know everything's correct. And we will work from the back to the front. In other words, from layouts 7 and 8 to layouts 1 and 2 using my slide and stack method. So let's get started. I will remove my trimmer from the Accordion Pocket File carefully so that the pocket file then now will lay on its back, because the trimmer is what holds up the pocket, okay? So just be aware of that. You don't want your pocket falling on the floor. Then I'll move in the remaining papers that I didn't trim into my workspace, and I like to just stack the whole thing in one pile, grab the top sheet, and that should be yellow, and I'm gonna move just the top sheet to the right, the remaining entire stack to the left. And I see it in class a lot of times. People just take both and they set this aside. But why do that? Because it just takes up more horizontal space, and it always seems we're limited in that department. So just one stack here, one sheet here. Then if you're using the instructions, turn to the very last page because we're working back to front. And layouts 7 and 8 should have exactly what I've described. And I can see here that I've rotated this print like this. So you can do that if you want to, but you do not have to, okay? You could have it the other way too, maybe. Maybe you want it, you know, it's your own page, right? You don't have to do what I did. I'm just telling you what I did. All right, I'm taking everything out of 7 and 8. And make sure you get those little pieces too. All right, let's see what we have here. I'm gonna start out with, and I do like to hold things in my hand rather than pick them up from the table. Sometimes it can be a real time saver. So I just see that I have this here. This strip with the starfish is gonna go on the right edge of the page, about 1/4 inch from the edge. And then I have my other larger border strip here. The sea breeze is perfume to my soul. That's about 1/2 inch from the top. Next up, I have this yellow strip, and that will be nested with the dots. That's very sweet. Now I'm going to take my 2 yellow photo mats and I will place them vertically on the right side of the left page. And I see I have this vertical dark aqua piece that is going to fit right into that piece here. There's your left page. Now on the right, I'm going to take 3 of these soft white mats. Now, as you're doing your placement here, I just want to point out, try to make it so that the edge of this mat doesn't line up with the edge of the border strip. Make sure the border strip's in a little bit so that these edges don't align. That creates what I would call a tangent, and we want to see if we can avoid those. Then I have these 2 orange pieces. I'm going to place them horizontally, and then notice how this piece is the same height, and then this will go beneath it, right side up. Now in your goodie pile, you're gonna find a message in a bottle. That's like really such a nice piece right on top of there. You can add some ribbon to that. I'll show you in a minute. And then you have the silver coin sequins. I love them because these are really flat in profile, light in weight, but pack a nice punch for the page. I'll put 3 of them over here, and I'll add one to my little shell trio here. Some nice balance there. Now, what about this guy? Well, let me show you what I did. You can do this a couple of ways. I used a cutting mat, one of my small grid rulers, and a craft knife. You can also use scissors, but in your kit, you have a series of these little cork labels. So you can peel one off and center it onto your edge of the paper so that you have the same margin on all 3 sides. It's about 1/16 of an inch, so half of a cube. Then I took my ruler and I extended it half a cube past the edge, and I just cut it. And that gives me a really nice frame around that cork label, and then I can add it here. And of course I did that 3 times. So I've got my sticker on the paper. Another thing you can do is simply use scissors. It's not going to be quite as reliable. My line is slightly crooked, and that would bother me, and I know myself. So that's why I used the ruler and the craft knife. It just gives me a straighter cut. And I know a lot of you have told me in the past that you're not comfortable using a craft knife. There are different knife styles you can look into, more ergonomic. I know my friend Ron uses one that kind of has a different grip. I like a pen knife because it really helps, I hold it like a pencil, and I'm comfortable in that position. So let me just attach this and I'll explain in a moment. So I've got this going on here. These labels are so cute. You'll have some leftovers if you want to label some glass bottles with them or something. Notice I hold it like a pen, and I hold really close to the blade, not up here and not like this, but like a pen or pencil. And I work with my dominant hand, always in a comfortable position, bringing the blade toward me. Those are my tips, and that last one will go there. And that's a really cute little addition to this fun layout. So I'll show you the finished version. Here we have layout 8, and it pretty much looks exactly like what I just showed you. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I had some ribbon that I added to the top of, there's a punch in the top of this tag. And I added ribbon, tied a knot in the end, and I glued it. So it would look, like it was floating, but it's really not. It's really secured to the page. And then here we have on the facing page, the last little cork embellishment, and then the gorgeous sheer ribbon and a double looped bow. So it's one length doubled going past the edge of the page, secured on the back, and then the other length is looped around this one, right? And then it's taped back here. And you see that it creates a nice knot, but a perfectly flat knot. It's a really great technique for card making, since you're not creating a lump that interferes with mailing machines and so on. That is layout 7 and 8. I love this. I love this collection so much, and I know a lot of you did too. So I'm going to move this over on top of this. Now it's not adhered, and it's a situation where if you take all of these finished placements and put them in a bag, all the stuff's going to fall to the bottom. But it's okay. It's amazing. When you pull it out and you want to adhere everything, it really comes together quickly and easily. I'm taking one sheet of orange, sliding it over, and that's going to give us the base for layouts 5 and 6. And then I'll reach into that pocket 5 and 6, pull everything out. Everything's in the hand if you can. I know some just don't feel comfortable with this, or maybe you have arthritis and your hands are killing you. Whatever works for you, okay? Now, here we have this largest piece. I'm going to put that flush at the very top edge of the left page. And then there are 2 light aqua strips. I'm going to take the narrowest one, and it's going to get paired with this strip that says I have enough sea glass. Now on the other side, the larger strip will go with the matching border strip. I'm not sure where that's placed. And the way I find out is by placing this dark aqua tall mat, the tallest one, and then this will be about 1/8 of an inch from each edge, and then this will be 1/8 of an inch down so that the margin on these 3 sides matches. And I can nest it with this journaling prompt / artwork. But keep in mind, my friends, if you have a lot of photos from a trip, just go ahead and cover anything you need to. Like cover, the purpose of all the artwork is to help you finish a layout that you might not have enough pictures for. I have 2 aqua photo mats. I have them tilted. They're overlapped slightly. One's higher than the other. And let's see, I have a rectangle. I think that's right here is going to fit with my trio of shells. And I have a smaller rectangle that will fit with Girls Just Want to Have Sun. I have a series of 4 soft white that should be the same size. And they're going to be placed horizontally in a group. 1, 2. So when I was making this, I tested it with scrap paper before I got my perfect measurement so it fit together so beautifully. Here I have a dark aqua that nests with the shell journaling prompt. That's going to tuck. And then here is that trimmed out bottle, and it's going to sit kind of so that straight edge at the bottom. And it's going to cover the corner of this, fine, right? And a little bit of your journaling prompt, fine. Then these 2 are going to just sneak in right here. So you got more photo opportunities and another nested photo opportunity here. I stapled a little ribbon onto that. I added a 3-part bow here. Let me show you on the finished page. It's so pretty. Here we go. There's that gorgeous metallic grosgrain light aqua ribbon running across. So I have 1 piece running across here. Then I made a loop and I wrapped ribbon around the loop to secure it. I secured it with cellophane tape there. And that creates that beautiful, what I call 3-part bow. On the facing page here, all I did was staple a piece of that same ribbon folded in half, kind of to carry it from one side to the other. I like to do that. Like, see how I have the dark aqua behind here and also here and here and here and here. So it creates balance for the layout. That was 5 and 6. Now I'm going to pick up the base of layout 5 and slide it on top of 6. And then I'll take the soft weight here, and that should give me 2 sheets of soft weight. And I'll go reverse in my instructions now down to the bottom of page 3. Let's take a look at what's in pocket 3 and 4. I have some larger pieces. I'll just pull those out and then grab all those other little pieces out of there. There's a lot in there. And let's see what I can manage to gather up in my hand here. Okay, so the larger pieces, we'll start with those. Obviously this sand dollar print, it's not a sand dollar, it's starfish. Starfish, yes. Okay, that goes flush on the left edge. And we have the yellow going flush on the bottom edge of the facing page. Now you'll notice some dark aqua strips here. That's not paper. That comes from the 2 yards of the double-faced satin ribbon that you have. So I stretched 1 across this way and 1 across this way right up next to the printed paper. That gives me a little transition between those 2 colors. I can right away see that I can distribute this nice set of photo mats. I call this film strip style. Notice that there's a margin around each photo. These are trimmed to 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. I like that little trick. Then one of those yellow mats, let's see. Let's go here. Let's take our Tranquility border. And then you have a yellow strip beneath it with a little air between. And then you have your polka dotted border. Should nest right on top of that. Should be just the right size. I have 2 yellow smaller ones right here. And those will match with 2 soft white photo mats. And then you have of the 2 yellow, one is larger. The largest one goes here. So these are gonna have to go that way. Now you have a shorter yellow, that's gonna go up here and nest with our cut apart, Nothing Soothes the Soul. So again, in this situation, if you have a lot of photos, just put one on top of this. It's okay. Again, that's just there to help you if you lack photos. You'll have a dark aqua with a journaling prompt. Then find treasures. This kind of sits on top in the middle of the bottom edge of this should be in the middle of your border strip here. Then you have a trio of nests. You're going to have the print, then white, and then piece. And you can thread some ribbon in to differentiate the layouts a little bit more. I put some of the sheer and also some of the dark aqua there. And this narrow piece here is used for your cork shaped stickers. I'll just lay that on top and show you the finished product. All right, here I have that double looped bow again with the sheer ribbon. It's probably one of my favorite things to do with the sheer because it creates that pretty little knot in the middle that's flat. And there's that nested cork, and then 3 coins added. I'll place those here so I don't forget for when we assemble that. And on the facing page, you can see to the ribbon, right? That has to go down early in the game. This I used with some foam adhesive to pop the word peace and tucked the bottle tag. I'm gonna add that down in there. And then 2 more of those cork captions on the left of those smaller photos. This also was popped up with foam adhesive, kind of adds something nice. And it's time to stack and slide again. So I will stack this here and bring in my dark aqua. Now I'll hold my papers on the right with 1 more sheet on the left, and we've arrived at layouts 1 and 2 already. It's fantastic. All right, this large sheet, I'm putting it on the right side here, about 1/4 inch at top and right with the starfish at the top. Then take your medium-sized orange strip and nest it with this border. On the left, I'll begin with this wide dark aqua and nest it with the orange. Look at that, how nice that is. I love it. We've got 2 horizontal, actually this goes a little lower, 2 horizontal orange, a short vertical dark aqua. On this side, we have 2 vertical dark aqua. Again, see the balance of the colors distributed. And then there are 2 light aqua the same. Those are gonna go on the left and right. And then the aqua that's a little wider goes in the middle. Here we have the starfish and a title. So you could add more pictures on top of that. This narrow strip is again used for the cork captions, and the relax right here. I forgot to mention the use of the other message in a bottle. That's the nice part. That goes on pages 5 and 6. So this is why we don't glue everything down. This is page 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes on 6, so I can plop it in there. Again, that is why we don't, because if you miss something or whatever, you can go back and solve it or fix it or switch it around. Or if you missed something, like it's often in a live workshop, people don't notice like that there's a nested something or other and they sort of miss that. So there you go. Now I'm going to take this last piece, put it on top, and everything's ready to go back in the bag or ready for you to adhere. I'll show you those last 2 pages finished. Here I have the 3 coins, and you can adhere those with bookbinding glue, with a glue dot, your favorite adhesive. They're pretty flat, so almost anything will work for that. I used bookbinding glue from a needle tip applicator to add adhesive to the relax, and then I had saved room between these 2 elements for my captions, my cork captions. Page 1, the only thing added here was a strip of the dark aqua satin ribbon. After it's secured, then I tied a smaller piece onto the ribbon in the spot where I wanted it. Nice and easy. And that is the Sea Glass Page Kit. I hope you love this collection as much as the last 2 that we did like it. And I know there are many newcomers to the Club Scrap family that will probably enjoy this one for the very first time. And if you finish those pages, be sure to join our private Facebook chat group where you can share your finished layouts with a very supportive and encouraging group of creative club scrappers. And if you haven't already, be sure you hit subscribe to this channel and give me a like on the video. If you learned something new, always put that in the comments. I'm encouraged and love to hear from you. I look forward to seeing you in another Page Kit workshop again soon.